Hello, I'm Beniko Mason. The title of today's presentation is Why Use the Story Listening Method to Teach a Foreign Language? First, let me tell you about 10 reasons. After that, I will briefly introduce some other good points of story listening. Story structure. In story listening, we first communicate the time and place of the story. Then story listening describes the main character and other characters in the story. Then the incident begins. Story listening expresses the character's feelings and thoughts regarding the event. The story develops around how the characters try to resolve the conflict. The listeners will get to know the personalities of the main character as the main character puts his plan into action. The listeners see what happens as a result of the main character's actions. Finally, story listening explains how the main character and other characters will react to the results. The stories always have a coherent flow of the event. The listeners become familiar with story structure. Story listening motivates students. Story listening can stimulate uninterested students, those who are reluctant to learn, those who are unmotivated, those who have failed in English study, and the elderly to become interested in acquiring English. Moreover, even successful students traditionally studying English can improve their grades faster by enjoying hearing many stories in English. Added ways to make story listening more understandable for listeners. It is called comprehension aiding supplementation. There are two ways. One is the linguistic and the other is the non-linguistic supplementation. The non-linguistic supplementation includes illustrations, gestures, facial expressions, and speaking slowly and clearly. The linguistic supplementation includes definitions, paraphrases, explanations, and comments in the target language. Both linguistic and non-linguistic supplementations enhance rich input that listeners are ready to acquire. Story listening minimizes dependence on translation. Enhanced vocabulary acquisition. Comprehension aiding supplementation allows the listeners to experience the breadth and depth of their vocabulary knowledge. Since the teacher uses the words that the listeners can understand, they listen to the high-frequency words over and over again. This creates a natural repetition process that helps them review the vocabulary. The story also contains low-frequency words and academic terminology. Exposure to words in different story contexts will deepen their understanding of the meaning of many words. What are the benefits of story listening and guided self-selected reading regarding testing? Looking at the questions regarding the test, it looks like this. Section 1. Listen to the following paragraph and answer the questions below. Section 2. Listen to the following conversation and answer the questions below. Section 3. Read the following paragraph and answer the questions below. Section 4. Read the following conversation and answer the questions below. There are no questions that use grammatical terms. When students improve their listening and reading skills, they can do better on tests. more efficient than immersion. Generally speaking, it is considered desirable to go to the target country to learn the language. However, listening and reading in the home country may be a better choice for students than immersion. In our research, there are examples where listening to stories and reading for pleasure significantly improved more on the TOEIC and TOEFL scores than studying overseas. Story listening and guided self-selected reading, two types of optimal input, appear to be a better option than immersion in second language acquisition. Pure input is more efficient than mixed. The mixed method uses stories and books, but includes forced output practice, error correction, conscious memorization, and testing. When forced output practice, error correction, conscious memorization, and weekly evaluation are eliminated and concentrate on providing optimal input, students reach their goal in much less time. Table 1 demonstrates that it takes 450 hours to gain 200 TOEIC points from 450 to 650, but it was achieved in 274 hours by Mr. Tanaka, a middle-aged man, Japanese man, who worked during the day. He took one SL lesson, story listening lesson, once a week and read books that he checked out from my private library. He read 6,500 pages in 1 year. Table 2 shows that it takes 500 hours to raise the TOEIC score from 650 to 850, but using story listening GSSR, Kenta, a Japanese university student, gained 170 points in 270 hours. Kenta also read about 6,500 pages and attended my story listening GSSR class twice a week. He gained 170 points in less than 1 year. Table 3 demonstrates that one needs to study for 325 hours to raise his TOEIC score 100 points from 850 to 950. But Sawako, a junior college who came back to my class, only listened to stories for 20 hours and read for 60 hours. Of course, the stories Sawako heard in the story listening lesson class were long and complex, and the books she read were upper-level graded readers. She read 1,740 pages. Table 4 shows that preschool education majors at a junior college achieved twice as much as the English majors. The preschool education majors only took one class of story listening GSSR class, but the English majors had 6 classes of mixed instruction and 1 class of story listening GSSR. Both groups read about the same number of pages for 1 semester, a little over 500 pages. Table 5 shows that the group who read but neither wrote a summary of each book they read in English nor received corrective feedback did the best in grammatical accuracy development in writing. The chart shows a rough estimate of the average number of hours of study time necessary to raise a student's current score to a given target level. Listening and reading input create a foundation for speaking and writing skills. Listening to stories in English and reading English books are the foundation of speaking and writing skills in English, and it helps students do well on tests. These are some of the feedback from my students. If I hadn't heard stories told in English, and without my teacher's guidance, I don't think I would have read books in English. Another one is, the more interesting books I read, the more my test scores improved. There are some more benefits, which may be minor but worth sharing. Number one is about grammar. Not only vocabulary, but also grammar is subconsciously acquired from listening to many different stories. Stories naturally present grammar in context. When I told the story The Star Money, I used imperatives, relative clauses, infinitives, present perfect sentences, and other different sentences. Students experience subconsciously how these rules are applied to convey meanings. Number two, stories appeal to a variety of learning styles, including visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Students have vicarious experiences. They look at the pictures that gradually appear on the blackboard. They understand the teacher's words when they understand the synonyms, descriptions, explanations, and comments. They look at the words written on the blackboard and see how the words are spelled and sentences are written. They imagine themselves as characters in the story, and as a result, they experience the events in the story. Number three, cultural exposure. The Star Money highlights altruism and reflects Buddhist values. Western stories often share values with Eastern values. For example, gratitude for food before eating is a practice in Japan as well. There are differences but also similarities. Story listening sessions prioritize language input, and therefore cultural differences are touched upon but not dwelled on extensively. Number four, no textbooks and workbooks for students. Number five, it is suitable for everyone at any age and at any level. Number six, only a blackboard, chalk, and a thick book of folk tales can do. Number seven, no need to create new activities anymore. Number eight, story listening and guided self-selected reading can help millions of people. This is because once you have mastered the teaching method, you can help your students without doing anything else by securing a certain number of books and continuing to search for new stories. References. The first one is Dr. Krashen's website for his books and articles. The second one is the Story Listening YouTube channel. The third one is the web page for story listening and guided self-selected reading. And on this web page, we offer a theory course and a method course. The fourth one is Story First Foundation. This is the web page where people can get stories for free. There are lots of other sites on the internet where you can get stories for free, but this is one of them. The last one is Beniko Mason's articles. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you again. Goodbye.